Okay, so now we're going to graph a tangent graph from the very beginning on our own. So we're going to start with this one. The A, B, C, and D that we had for sine and cosine, they work the same way here. C is going to be a shift up or down. A is going to be a stretch or compress in the y direction. You don't really see it too much for the tangent and cotangent graphs because the range is positive infinity to negative infinity. So the number out front doesn't do as much, so we're just going to leave that as a 1. And then here we've got the B, and we see that we have a horizontal shift, but we've got to get it into factored form like this to see what that is. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to have 2 plus tangent, and we factor that 1/2 out, and we get x plus pi on the inside. So we know that the 1/2 is going to affect the period, and we know that we're going to have a pi shift to the left. Okay, so now remember for our standard tangent graph, let me put that up here. Remember that our period was pi, and we were centered at 0, 0. And remember that our asymptotes were at negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. Okay, so we can use this information, we can use either piece of information to draw our new tangent graph. So there's 2 different ways that you can draw this tangent graph, and I'm going to show you both. You don't have to do both ways, just pick whichever way works better for you and go with that. Okay, so if we use the first one, originally our period was pi, and so now our new period is going to be pi over b. So pi over b, so that's going to be pi over 1/2 for our problem, and that gives us 2 pi. Okay, so our normal period is pi, and so we're going to have pi over b, which gives us 2 pi for this one. All right, and then we have a shift to the left by pi. A shift to the left by pi. Okay, so we were at 0, 0 to start, so we're going to shift to the left by pi. That's here. And our period is 2 pi. Okay, our period is 2 pi. So that means that, remember, just like with the sine and cosine graphs, these are all going to be symmetric to the left and the right. So if my period is 2 pi, that means I have to go 1 pi in each direction. So plus pi in one direction, minus pi in the other direction. Okay, the point that I shift, this has got to be the halfway point. So if I go pi to the right, that gives me an asymptote right here. And if I go pi to the left, that gives me an asymptote right here. Okay, so these are my new asymptotes. So 0 and negative 2 pi. All right, and then I know that tangent goes up on the right and down on the left. And then we also have to take into consideration this up to. Okay, so we would be crossing right here, but we need to shift that up to. And then from there, I can go up on the right and down on the left. And of course, if we needed to get a more precise picture, then we would plot a couple points. Or if we had a number out front here that changed the shape a little bit, we would plot a couple points. But for right now, this is good. We're just trying to get an idea of the picture. And then if we needed to repeat it, we would just repeat this picture. So we would have another, we'd be 2 up from there. So we'd go pi to the right, we'd go up 2. We'd have another asymptote right here. And we would go up to the right and down to the left. Okay, so that's using this piece of information to graph the picture. Okay, that the original period is pi and that we start at 0, 0. Okay, so let's back this up and let's try to graph it the other way. Going back. Okay, so the other way to look at this is to say we had asymptotes at negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So originally our tangent graph went between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So if we take this stuff that's on the inside here and put that between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2, then we should figure out what our x values need to be. So negative pi over 2, and then we put this stuff in the middle. to pi over 2. So if we solve this compound inequality for x, then we should see where our new asymptotes are, and then we can get everything from there. So the first thing that we want to do is subtract pi over 2 from all of the pieces. Okay, we're trying to get x by itself. So this would give us negative pi over here, 1/2 x in the middle, and 0 on the right. And then we need to multiply all the pieces by 2. So multiply by 2, multiply by 2, and we get negative 2 pi to x to 0. Okay, so these are our new asymptotes. Here and here. So you say, okay, I've got an asymptote at negative 2 pi, and I've got an asymptote at 0. And we know that tangent has to cross halfway between the two of those. So that would be right there. And then we remember our shift up by 2. It would actually be right there. And then we remember that tangent goes up on the right and down on the left. And we get the same picture that we had before. Okay, and then if you needed to repeat it, you'll do the same thing over here. Whoops. Okay, halfway would be right here. We shift up 2. And we go up on the right and down on the left. Okay, so this is method 1, using the period and that we were originally at 0, 0 to use the shift. And this is method 2, figuring out where the asymptotes go, and then you're going to be halfway and go up on the right and down on the left and go from there. So either way that you want to graph it is fine.